I'm putting my neck out here already. I feel strongly about them. Who
Yeah.
knows? Who knows really in finals, but not me making the decision or the board making the decision on their behalf. They need to be part of the whole process. And I sort of feel what we've come to, I'm happy. And I feel, the athletes that I've talked to are happy.
She's such an amazing player. So you definitely want to see her back, but got to give her that space to figure all that out for sure. Well, kia ora, Netball Scoop whānau, and welcome back to the Sporting Scoop. Today's guest is honestly making me a bit starstruck. I haven't really told her much about it yet, but not only is she the current Silver Ferns coach, she's a 5-time domestic premiership winner across 3 different competitions. She's a dame. She is also the coach that made me fall in love with netball when I first watched in 2005. So, Noeline, how are we doing today?
I am very good, and thank you for such a lovely intro. And I know you're in New York, and I've already said how wonderful that is. So we will move on. But thank you for this time.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, thank you for giving me a few minutes of your time. This is going to be an amazing chat. And I mean, I usually start off by just studying on the netball journey of a player or coach, but I know that there's been a lot of big news kind of headlines that have come out in New Zealand. So let's start off with probably the easiest question, which is around the ANZ Premiership competition. I mean, there's only one game to go. What have been your general thoughts, I guess, as I know that this year it's been touted as a bit interesting in terms of the new additions, but also the form has been either very consistent or very inconsistent. So, yeah, what are your general thoughts about that?
Look, sometimes inconsistency is the name of our game.
Mm,
So that's probably consistent, if I'm going to be honest. What I've really liked, I think for us to go from 3 rounds to 2 rounds
mm,
has been positive for us. And why I say that, it's been a new probably experience for the clubs that, you've got to start the competition fast and furious and start it well. And I feel some of the clubs probably didn't realize that until they sort of got to the second round, mainly because of missed opportunities in round number 1.
mm,
But I think what that has done has added a bit of spice, because really they've sort of found out you just can't muck around.
mm,
And if anything, I 100% believe that the intensity's gone up. There's been more quality when those teams are on their game.
mm.
I feel that the two-pointer has been something that's exciting. Even though when we were putting it together, they said innovation. I said, oh God, we're not innovative. We're like 5 years too late. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? But
yeah, bit of
what
the
I
future,
do
bit of the
like
past.
out of it, what I do like out of it is that we've pushed it out to 3.5.
Mm,
And for me, that feels right. Like you deserve 3 points if you're shooting at 3.5 meters.
mm,
So what it's done is really honed in on some of our players actually to go to the post at that distance. And we're sort of, I like to think we're renowned to have a long shot specialist.
mm,
So that sort of created the opportunity for them just to show what they've got. The coaching box has been a great addition for our coaches just to get out there. And all for this weekend, which is the grand finals, mystics and tactics, and really looking for just all of it to be laid out.
mm.
Really excited about what that product could look like for us. But overall, I feel that there's been shifts for us and it has been positive.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned that grand final that's this weekend between the Mystics and the Mystics and the Tactics. Sorry. What are your thoughts on those two teams, I guess, going into that grand final? And obviously, I know you probably won't give a prediction, but where do you think that will be won or lost?
I feel Mystics have been so consistent right
Mm,
throughout the whole season. I actually got to commend them really. Both Tiara, the coaches, and Rob have done a good job. When Danelle got injured for the 3 or 4 weeks, they Didn't bring an they didn't bring a mature or senior person in. What they did was went to their pathways,
Mm,
and it unveiled Sophia, who stood up and, in the under 21s, sort of in that scoop as well, and gave her that opportunity, and it made her shine. And she was amazing. So I feel the likes of the captaincy and leadership under Peter and also Michaela Sokolic-Beatson to be able to work with some of these younger players. I've been so impressed with the quality, but also just the consolid base that they're working from. So I'm putting my neck out here already. I feel strongly about them. Who
yeah.
knows? Who knows really in finals? But ultimately, I think they deserve it, and they're very strong, and they've got it all sorted. Tactics, they had a boomer last week. Sorry, they played against Pulse. It was the
Mm,
cliche of a game of two halves.
yeah.
I could have just turned the TV off in the first half and thought Pulse had it, and then up popped Tactics, and they were just able to consolidate, and all those old heads came to town. So,
Mm,
whether they can back that up, that's probably a big thing. Have they won their championships last week? And can they feel the might of the Mystics? So, hopefully, it's going to be a close game. And
mm.
hopefully, we overtime, double overtime. So, we finish our competition with a wow. So, that'd be awesome.
Giving people a lot of trauma, I guess, whoever loses
Oh,
that double extra time. But
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I mean, I was surprised that you'd even give a prediction because I know that's over the last couple of years you haven't even been willing to give a prediction. So thank you for providing that. I mean, there's also been in the headlines recently that Netball New Zealand has revised their criteria around allowing players to play internationally. Obviously, there was no specificity, I guess, to them, but at least there's that consideration that it's kind of expanded the process, or there is a process that's going to be implemented. So I know that you've been a big pusher for that, not only with Grace, but other New Zealand players doing it. So what do you kind of see for our New Zealand players that it's going to benefit them, not only themselves, but the Ferns team as a wider squad?
Look, I've been really upfront in regards to understanding the thoughts that go behind us and this eligibility and the process that's just been approved by the board. There's always two scopes. One is what's best for actually three, what's best for the player, their
Mm,
own growth and development, and our support, or my support, or our HPD support of that. The second thing is the Silver Ferns. Actually, it's probably the first
mm.
thing. It's all a hand in hand.
Yeah.
The Silver Ferns, we're all heading into the Commonwealth Games next year and the Worlds, and really trying to grow our players to get more world-class players that can do their thing on the international stage. So to some degree, that's why it's very positive. The third thing is always the narrative and ensuring that we don't gut ANZ, by
Mm,
taking all the main players. So I suppose as different parties went through the discussions of this eligibility, it was making sure that we had a win-win situation for everybody. The utmost is that the athlete needs to be in the center of all these decisions, not me making the decision or the board making the decision on their
mm,
behalf. They need to be part of the whole process. And I sort of feel what we've come to, I'm happy.
mm,
And I feel, the athletes that I've talked to are happy. And what it does is just help them think about other things that they may not like. You're talking court time. What positions will I play? If
mm.
I don't get on court, what does that mean? What does it mean with my insurance? Like what's the resources look like? So it gives them more in-depth questions that they can probe with the
Mm.
clubs, whether they stay in New Zealand or whether they go over to SSN. And a clear process that everybody, it's transparent.
Yeah. And I mean, I'd also love to give a quick mention to Amelia Ekenasio. She announced yesterday that she's taking a break for 2025. So I'd love to hear some words from you about not only her impact on the Ferns environment as a player, but as a captain.
Yeah, look, she's irreplaceable.
Mm,
Not only the leadership, both on and off the court, her particular skill sets and what that means in combination with others. Like she can shoot long, she can do a lot of things.
mm,
So we don't have anybody in the system that's going to fill that and how she does how she plays in her game style. Um, I'm 100% supportive of all of our players, like whether they're having babies, injuries, the exemptions, and because of her reasons, totally, like
mm,
sometimes I feel personal things that happen behind the scenes, that it just makes it difficult for people to be able to balance their life and give to everybody. So hopefully where she is and just her making herself unavailable for this
mm,
year for the Silver Ferns
mm,
gives you space and time just to rejuvenate and possibly keep her in our sport, keep her playing,
mm. Yeah.
So totally supportive of that. And then we'll see what that next steps need to be for her and hopefully entice her back.
Yeah, exactly. She's such an amazing player. So you definitely want to see her back, but got to give her that space to figure all that out for
Totally.
sure. Um,
Yeah,
and as I said at the beginning, this is a podcast that kind of delves into netballer careers. So this is where we get to talk solely about you now, I guess, and your journey. And I have really loved during the series talking to players that have, I guess, that dual perspective of also being a player and a coach. And so I'd love to kind of start off with your playing career. So, little summary: you played 34 tests for the Silver Ferns between 1994 and 1999. And despite being told, that your height would kind of plague against you, you ended up doing those 34 tests. And you were quite an unorthodox player, I guess, in the current scheme of things in terms of being a goal attack, wing attack swing, which is not necessarily seen nowadays. Maybe only Georgie Horgis is probably one example. So I'd love to talk about your international debut. So that was for the Silver Ferns up against Australia, close game in Dunedin. So what do you remember about playing that game? And were you kind of a player that got wrapped up in all the emotions of it all, or were you straight to business?
I feel I was a straight to business. I'm sort of a straight to business kind of gal, sort of,
Mm,
and really want to live the moment while I'm doing my thing, and really want to be transparent and open and honest, and a hundred of hearts of doing the right thing.
mm,
And when I say the right thing, it's not necessarily for me as a person. It's sort of around whether it's the Silver Fern brand, our program, or each other. That's
mm,
pretty much, I suppose, a cover of me as a person and how I see the collective. So I think, for me, things that I think about my playing career, geez, if I knew what I know now and if I listened a little bit more and did a bit more, I think I would have been
mm,
way better. So um, I don't feel that I reached my potential to some respect, and maybe I was a bit lazy, and maybe I just relied on my own talent. So there is a bit of a piece that I wished that I could have done better, or wish I entered
mm,
into a different space. I was under some amazing coaches in New Zealand, probably the legends of our sport. So I've been really lucky in that respect. But I've also learnt that I do things differently from a coaching perspective, and being able to find my gap of being a player, what
mm,
works, maybe how I could do things a wee bit differently to try and get that connection with a person. So if I give you an example, I'm not a tall goal attack. Like I'm not tall.
mm.
I'm not like, these Amazon ladies, and 5 foot nothing, 5'10",
Yeah,
shorter. But I was never asked in my coaching career, in my athlete career, what are your strengths?
yeah.
Like, it was always what you can't do. and what you didn't do. So and that's sweet as, like, it's fine, but I was never going to get any taller, unless
Yeah.
someone put me on a racking machine. So, but I felt that my speed was my strength at that time, coming from an athletic background. And I would like to think my head, my creativity, bit of X factor, but my strategic thinking around what I did. And as I said, the love for my teammates. So maybe, like, if that was used as to how my speed, maybe the patterns or the lines that I ran on court, the subtlety around the movement, and how I could expose that more, bring that more out instead of what I couldn't do. I
Yeah.
think that has shaped to some degree how I coach, and the things that I look at in an athlete, first and foremost, is their skill set, their strengths, their uniqueness, and how I can build on that. So yeah, being a slide just gave me another position instead of being on the bench. So if I needed to play goalkeeper,
Yeah.
I would have played goalkeeper, just to keep out there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've had this conversation with Temi Pata George actually recently, where she talked about having a very similar conversation, like an under 21 coach pretty much told her that she was never going to be a Silver Fern because of her height. And it seems like, during that time, it was very much, as you said, focusing on those weaknesses. And it is all about finding, I guess, that person that kind of believed in you to give you those opportunities. And hers was Yvonne Willering. She was a major person for her. So I would love to hear, maybe, as you mentioned, there were some amazing coaches that probably saw some major talent in yourself, but who's potentially one of those coaches that you remember being like, oh, yeah, this person does believe in my strengths rather than my weaknesses?
As I said, it's hard for me to remiss or take out coaches that I've been under, because
Mm,
everybody's got their strengths, but gave me a lot. So
yeah,
I'm the same with Yvonne. Lee was a big one for me as well. Lee Gibbs.
yeah,
Probably Te Aroha. So my starting coach, Mrs. Williams, when I was in
yeah.
secondary school, and still she echoes a lot of things that I remember now.
Mm,
Tiny Jamison, who I've had a lot to do with, who recently passed, or over a couple of years.
mm,
She was one of my coaches growing through, coming through the levels. But I think Waimarama Tamoni probably laid the foundation for me as a player.
yeah,
And why I say that at the high performance, because I was under her for at least 10 years. And for me, in those earlier years, it's the grounding that you get. And
mm,
she's very articulate, very technical, very tactical, and very tough. So you knew exactly what was expected, and you knew what you needed to do. So those are probably the key people. At the end, starting to be the end of my career, which was quite an interesting sort of thought. I
mm.
had 2 years under Lois Muir.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, and she's one of our legends of our coaching
for sure.
Silver Fern realm. And what she taught me was the subtleties of the game. She said, you don't have to run around like a blue ass, excuse my language, fly. She used to always say this to me,
Yeah,
calm down.
yeah,
Calm down. So, how you move your body, the change of the angles of the shoulder to promote the defense to go one way, knowing you're
mm,
going the other way. So, looking at the art and strategic way of playing the game within the game.
yeah,
So I love that. And possibly because it was at the end of my career, being a bit more mature, I was able to take that in, and probably being able to hear her and understand what she was saying.
yeah. And I mean, as you said, that your playing career did end with a bit of an interesting end. You had that second ACL injury, but that did open up that opportunity for you with the Magic under Ruth Aiken to do that 12th player, but basically the assistant coach role. Um, and I know you said in a podcast recently that you don't think that you were a natural coach, but um, and I know that throughout your career as well, you've also talked about only following opportunities or people that give you 100% trust, or that you have 100% trust in. So What made you think that going under Ruth at the Magic was the right decision?
That lady can talk, but like she's an English teacher, that's her
Mm.
base.
Yeah,
She's so eloquent. She says the words. She's sort of one of those ladies that you just can't say no, because
yeah.
every time I brought up something or said something, she had the answer. And then, okay, if she couldn't provide the solution, then she'll say, "Hey, I'll come back and I'll let you know." But
Mm,
she gave me such what do you call it? I just felt so good from what she was saying to me, and
mm,
I sort of felt like it was the right timing, and I had no excuse after she told me.
yeah,
And she sort of had she had in her mind where I fitted in through how I am.
yeah.
And wasn't expecting me to change or anything like that, but maybe she foresaw this sort of place for me faster or sooner than I did.
Yeah, and I mean that decision for you to join her ended up starting a 23 career in coaching for you. So I mean, let's start off with that Magic team from 2002 to 2013. Besides your first season, you ended up making the finals or the playoffs in every single season that you were there. You won 3 premierships, including that infamous 2012 victory over the Melbourne Vixens. So I know that you had like some amazing players in there, like Irene, Casey, and Laura to help you along that way. But was there any sort of link or any particular reason as to why, I guess, you felt comfortable enough and had that trust in the program to stay at the Magic for that length of time?
What I, in reflection, and what I was so lucky with those players, and also the
Mm,
administrators, the people that I had in and around me, because I was what we call as age and stage. You have an age and stage of athlete. At the
mm,
time, I didn't know. You have an age and stage of coach. So I was only 1 year with Ruth, and I was
yeah.
sort of, as you said, a slash sort of coach and slash sort of 12th player. So I was sort of listening, but not sort of listening at the same time, and loved just being out on court. And then when I transitioned into full time,
Mm,
it's definitely a job that you learn in real time,
yeah.
and there was so much that I didn't even know existed around a team, because I'm just stuck in my own little wee box as a player, and didn't think of the operational side, the programming, the loading, anything to do with broadcasting or anything like that. So
Mm,
um, because of all the stuff that I was learning on the job, and I was being guided through with our CEO, Cheryl Dawson, as to what needed to happen off the court.
yeah.
But on the court, I had the likes, as you mentioned, of these wonderful women, like the Laws and the Caseys. I picked them up when they were 15, 16. And
Mm,
even when Irene came in, she was still early 30, 20s or whatever it may be.
mm,
So I felt, looking back, that I actually learnt at the same time as they learnt.
yeah.
Like we were going through the age and stage of the whole learning thing all together. And I'm so thankful that I had those players, and there's many players that we're all in the
Mm,
same buzz, that we're in that generation. So to some degree, they supported me 100% of not going, what the heck are you doing, Nolly? Like they were open to
yeah.
do, walk up the mountain, go down the river,
Yeah.
box. We went through a lot of different things that when I look back, I think, oh my gosh, I don't know if generations now would have gone through that. So
Yeah.
I learned my job alongside those players learning their job to be a professional athlete.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we've sort of still got that really strong bond, because they're themselves and legends of our game. So it's just that sort of support that I had in the system while I was trying to learn my trade that was
Yeah.
really
And
helpful.
And I mean, I feel like all of that kind of development ended up with that 2012 victory in that
Yes.
grand final. So, what do you remember about the season leading up to that grand final? Because I remember as a Magic fan, it was very chaotic. You lost those first four games, and then you had to win every single game to go up to that. Um, but do you also think that you needed all that heartbreak of those previous grand final losses to almost crave that championship win?
It's quite interesting that, and I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to be honest, because if I saw that disappointment and that feel of, oh God, it's hard to explain when you're there, but you don't quite get over there, and
Yeah.
just the feel of that, and time and time and time again, the utter disappointment.
Mm,
Um, if I had my child, I would erase all that. I don't like that feeling. So, but
mm,
I think what it does, it gives us it drives the hunger. And I
yeah.
feel it drives the real backbone and the character of a person. And really, do you want to be there? Are you prepared to be better? And are you prepared to work towards that? So I sort of feel those are the fundamental things that come in that sort of disappointment. You get
Mm,
always the cream that's going to rise to the top, and those ones who are prepared to open themselves up and be vulnerable, but want to do something about it. Everyone can
mm,
talk, you can all talk, but hey, you're being put under the microscope, and will you stand? And your tenaciousness comes out. So I feel, it's I think it was the first four games that we lost.
mm,
Um, and as a team and as myself, we were sort of transitioning into this new stage, of
yeah.
our own development, and we're not quite stable within the team. We knew specifically, usually in the ANZ of that competition, you could only lose four games. I already
Mm,
knew right from the start. And if you lost four games, you weren't going to be in the business end. So pretty much the D-Day was the D-Day.
yeah.
I remember probably the first four games. So it might have been round five to, round nine.
Yeah.
The style of game that we played was the ugliest. It was terrible because we were so like,
Jittery. Yeah,
just like really
yeah.
tight. We were like
Mm,
little buzzy bees, like like the kids have down on a Saturday. We
yeah.
all punched in. The
Yeah.
game was terrible. You could see it and feel it on our face, and we
Yeah.
knew it too. So the
Mm,
quality was not good.
yeah.
We keep going, keep going, keep going. And then there was probably a point, maybe about three quarters of the competition, it felt like, well, what else is there? Like,
Yeah.
what else is there?
You've
We
already
don't have
gone
to,
through everything.
we've
Yeah.
gone through everything. So to some degree, the pressure started to release.
Mm,
Then we started to get a bit more freer. And then it started to get a bit more excitement. And then we got through the first one. And there's been some significant times or significant things that happened. In our first semi final, first or second, I'm not too sure. Irene's mum had passed
it was
just
the
the night
second.
before. Oh, the
Yeah.
second.
Yeah.
Oh, the first one actually. I think we were playing Thunderbirds. I think maybe
Yes,
at
you
home
were.
in
You
Mystery
were.
Creek.
Yeah, and you
That
you were
was
losing the
that.
game by like 100 million at the beginning, and then you ended up crawling it back
Oh,
by one. Yeah.
and that was a boomer of a game because Elias
Yeah.
Shadrock, I remember talking to her specifically. Come on, Elias. And she just turned the ball over. I think it was on the last quarter.
Yes, it was.
Thunderbirds in those days, oh my God. So it was going toe for toe. I
Mm,
think we only won that one by 1 point.
yeah.
Second game, Irene's mum passed the night
Yeah.
before. And obviously we were playing a local derby against Mystics at that
Yeah.
time. And that was next level. And honestly, at the end of that game, I said, oh, your mum came out because I remember she missed the shot. It was going toe for toe. She missed the shot. And
Yeah.
then it sort of ricocheted off Anna Harrison's head of
Yeah.
some sort. It was like
Yeah.
really weird.
I think I remember it was Anna Harrison almost grabbed the ball and then chucked it up in the air for some reason,
Yeah.
and then it grabbed into Irene's hands and she shot
And the grades, and then she put the last shot in.
it.
But the relief of that, and like we're
Yeah.
thinking, oh my gosh, honestly, Irene's crying because her mum had just passed away. There's so much emotion. And then by the
Mm,
time we went to that last game, it was just pure joy. Like
mm,
it was like only, a whole June. It was joy, and we played with joy. And that is
yeah.
the best that you could ever play, enter any game with that sort of emotional state.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like this is something really synonymous with your career. I've talked with Carla Pretorius about this when you moved over to the Sunshine Coast Lightning, that basically your approach to that club was bringing every member from coaches to players to admin and being like, we all need to work together as one unit. And I think that's been synonymous with your time at the Magic as well, but also with the Silver Ferns. You brought that in during that 2019 championship. But quickly, just with the Sunshine Coast, kind of what was that like going over to that environment from the New Zealand way of high performance to Australia and being able to, I guess, win those first two championships?
Love
Mm,
it.
yeah.
It was age and stage. It was just the best. Helped me so much as a coach. Feel confident about myself, I suppose. And know, because I do things a wee bit different. I know that, but to
Mm,
be able to work with a group of ladies that I don't even know, apart from Laura at that time, and I asked Edina to come over,
yeah.
but it gave me more confidence that actually I can coach and there's something with what I do. So,
Mm,
but the opportunity to create something from absolutely nothing and to establish ourselves in the Sunny Coast community as a professional sporting club that can be successful.
mm,
The whole hope was that the pathways of a lot of those kids or girls from Sunny Coast could actually be a lightning player in the future. So that's
mm,
where the heart sort of started from. But the opportunity that presented alongside of that is the ability to work with Melbourne Storm
yeah.
and glean as much as I could around what they do, their success. And we worked really hard for the first year because we didn't have a lot of people, but there was probably about
Mm,
four of us in the office behind the scenes that ran everything. So we were 100% committed. And I think that added to, once again, the joy of
mm.
winning the championships through how we did it as a collective group.
Yeah, and I mean that joy seemed to stem through a lot of your international career as well as a coaching staff. But I know you've talked a lot about that 2019 win, so I'd kind of love to almost segue into the 2023 World Cup and also last year. So I know that 2023 wasn't the ideal result that you guys would have wanted, but obviously there were some injuries that happened, but also the world caliber is just going up to another level. So what are you kind of, I guess, learning from that experience at the 2023 Netball World Cup that has allowed you to do almost that really quick turnaround to that 2024 results that were just so comprehensive? It was unbelievable.
I think once again it made us look inward, made me
Mm,
look in. Um, and as I say, I'm responsible for that and I take accountability. So out of
mm,
that came probably the interview and am I the right person? So blah, blah, blah.
yeah,
What it did as well, it really looked at ourselves. So realistically, where we sit in Silver Ferns, I think on average, 13.5 or whatever years, we will win the Netball World Cup.
yeah,
Like, we just got to get real with ourselves.
mm,
So, sometimes there's 19 years in between or whatever, but it
yeah,
ended up 13.5. So if we keep to what we're doing at the moment, we won't win the World Cup until 2032.
yeah. We're
You know,
not. We're
so
not something we're subscribing to, by the
so I'm not going to
way.
be around in 2032 and I'm not going to take the pain in 2027. So
Yeah.
we've got to do what we can do. And we've got to maybe push the boundaries. We've got to be open that we have to change our systems. And a lot of that stuff I feel is that we just don't have the depth. We don't have the same numbers as other teams. And now with the advent of SSN and all the amazing players that are playing there who are world class, you know, like I keep saying to Australia, man, you're building the Jamaican program, you know,
Yeah.
like English program,
I
you know,
know.
like honestly, and that's why it's so good, you know.
Mm,
So we find it really hard to be able to compete with that. So these recent things around the eligibility can only be good for us as the Silver Ferns, because week in, week out, if we can get people over the line, it's going to
mm,
help them to know and compete day in, day out, know what high performance is.
yeah.
So, you know, these sort of things is our reality. We can be really more prioritized around what is most important and what's going to make the difference for us to be able to compete.
Mm,
Um, so I think if anything, we licked our wounds, taken a thrashing from our New Zealand community.
mm.
I've
Oh God.
survived, and I've
Yeah.
been able to really hone in as
Mm,
to what's important and be much strategic about where we position, and what's the biggest areas that we need to really push. So if I look at it, Constellation Cup last year, no Silver Ferns team has ever beaten the Diamonds. Actually, I don't even know if any country. Three zip,
yeah.
double digits.
No, never.
But for us, which is massive, we got a new generation of players coming through.
Yes.
And I feel really excited by that. Some of these players are still not quite ready in international because they're really light on exposure. But
Mm,
I feel really excited because if we can get 1% increase, 1% improvements in each person, it's going to be amazing as to what that will look like by the time we get to Commonwealth Games or 2027. And I feel with these current selections, there's another group of exciting players in ANZ that I feel
mm,
2 or 3 years out, holy. So
yeah.
this is what I'm saying. We just got to be smart where our levels are. We've got to provide opportunities for our players to get that international exposure, whether it's SSN, whether it's tests. We probably have to take the pain somewhere, so that we're building the depth. But if we
Yeah.
can keep clear about what our end result and our strategic priorities, time will tell.
Yeah.
But
And I mean,
hey, if we give it all our now, we got nothing else. We can't. Okay, not good enough. Whatever. And really, if we keep to statistics, it won't be until 2032 anyway that we'll win. So we haven't lost anything.
you don't say that at all. We're not putting that jinx or anything onto the universe. But yeah, I think my last question would be, as you have just mentioned, 2025 is going to be a big year for you guys. I mean, there is, as you have just mentioned, that there's a couple of people that are unavailable. You're going to be bringing in probably, obviously, without announcing anything, a pretty even split of newbies and players that have been in the environment, but not necessarily in the environment for too long. I mean, as well, we've seen in the ANZ this year, there's been a lot of standout young players like Georgie Edgecombe, Cara Stith, Catherine Hall, and also those fringe players like Alessa Petitoyava and Michaela Sokolich-Beatson that have been, standouts that have really put their game to the next level. So, I mean, in those two games, those two test series you have against South Africa and Australia, I mean, what are you looking for? Like, what's the number one thing or a couple of things that you're really looking for in bringing in those new players to see how they work in the environment and see how our development can go to the next level?
I feel the biggest probably gap at the moment, but I understand sometimes it's cyclical. Like it just has, like a couple of years ago, we didn't have any defense. Now we've got a lot of
Mm,
defense. So it moves and grooves. And so now that with Mills, Ameliaranne making herself unavailable, that goal attack position is, I'm not saying an area of concern because it's definitely not that. It's an
mm,
opportunity.
yeah.
So I feel there's a clear opportunity for us to look at what we have in our depth. I'm quietly confident that some of our players I'm really excited by,
Mm,
because they're prepared to take that long shot.
yeah.
Um, I feel in all other positions, we're looking actually not too bad. And as you mentioned, with the likes of Catherine Hall, Peter, we've had Peter in our system like for the last 6 years. And even
Mm,
though she hasn't been selected or in and out at certain times, the time is now, So,
yeah.
and I think with her being so fit, and we're seeing what she can do in regards to staying in the moment, in the game, and leading from the front. So we got an amazing mid-court. You've got the likes, as you said, of Georgie. Um, the areas we've got players that can shift. So, with a Curtin, she can play goal defense, wing defense. You've
Mm,
got a KH that can play a wing defense center. So we've got really players that can slide,
mm,
um, which is why it's so exciting. Oh, look, I can talk about it for ages. I'm really excited about our squad. This is the time for us to blood new players. It has to be. It's not a risk, it's a strategic decision. We're looking at 2027. We've got to be on the top of our game by then. And because we're looking at players that don't have that international exposure or not quite ready, they have to be on court this year. So that's why
mm.
2025 is massive as we build the development and growth of some of these players. Plus, also knowing possibly some of our established players the opportunity of coming over SSN and growing in another level. So I'm really excited by our athletes coming through.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Noeline, for joining me today on today's episode. Massive honor, as I said at the beginning. And yeah, good luck for the 2025 season. It's going to be a cracker, sure. And, as the New Zealand bias is going to come out, we'll pray for a clean sweep, hey?
One
Thank
game
you
is
so
more
much.
time, one game at each game as it comes.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah. Thank you so much.
you're welcome.